Hello, beautiful people. It's Quintin from the Hunters of Light, and today we are speaking to Sam Osner, Creative Showcase number 2 in the Fine Art Month. I'm certainly learning a lot in this process. And I can't wait to see what images Sam has to show. Fine art landscapes for me, I really enjoy the feel that they evoke. She's going to show us some techniques, camera movement, multiple exposures. And I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. If you've been watching us before, thank you very much. If not, remember to subscribe, hit the notification bell so we'll let you know exactly when we post any new content. All right, so as usual, cue the intro. Cue the intro. Cue the intro. All right, we're back, and today we've got Sam Osner, and she's going to be taking us through our second creative showcase of fine art photography. Last week we had Miss Hepburn. She gave us quite a nice introduction to the whole fine art genre. Left it a little less sketchy for me. I'm kind of starting to understand it now. So now we've gone completely left field, and we're going to talk to Sam about her approach to fine art, and I suppose specifically the sort of landscapey type fine art. Then we'll have the two different sides of the genre. And next week we'll have yet another side. And hopefully by the end of this, we'll all know exactly what we're doing. We're going to go out there, take some beautiful fine art shots, sell them for $1 million, and we sorted. Until then, Sam, over to you. I think let's start off with first of all, thanks very much for coming on.
Such a pleasure.
I really enjoy your work. Those sort of misty water,
Yes.
trees standing on their own. It certainly does something for me. I love that type of look, and it inspires me. The only time I really get to shoot the fine art landscapes is
Yes.
when I go on holiday, and I haven't done that in a while. So I'm like, I got to go. So I'm going to get my fill today.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Get all your inspiration.
Absolutely, I'm taking notes.
Good stuff.
So maybe just let's start off with what fine art photography means to you, and then whenever you're ready, we can share your screen.
Yeah, for sure. So just before I start going straight into fine art photography, let me just give you a quick little story about how I got into it, because it clearly didn't start with fine art photography. I
Absolutely.
can tell you that much. It's something I grew to love. I always loved it, but it was something I almost had to get used to. I almost had to train my eyes to get used to that kind of a look and feel. So when I came into photography, it was very much, I loved the straightforward landscapes. I went into commercial, I did portraiture, I did just about everything. Because I almost wanted to get my technical side right before I started just playing around, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely,
So I got a lot of encouragement from my dad when I just started. Sam, try this. Sam, experiment like that. And I'm always a bit hesitant because I feel like I'm not cheating, but it feels like, let me first know I can take photos before I start messing around and having fun.
Right.
But only now that I've crossed that path, I've fallen in love with this creative side of photography. I'm starting to drift away a little bit further from my typical landscape and venturing more into creative techniques and shooting creatively.
Right.
So that's where I am now. I've got a few more collections that I've actually just released last week that are purely fine art, and we'll get to them at the end because the one is completely different to anything
cool.
I've ever. So it was very scary for me to put it out there, but I think I'm heading in an interesting direction.
And I think that's the big thing with fine art, is that it's, obviously as commercial photographers, where people are paying you to do something, it's like, here is product, shoot it. It kind of needs to be color accurate.
Exactly.
It
And
needs
shoot
to
it
be lit
how
properly.
I want it. That's what I struggle with.
Exactly.
You don't have to put your little taste in.
Exactly. And with the fine art thing, it's all. And then obviously with the commercial stuff, it's still your work, so you feel it.
Yeah.
And when they don't sort of respond straight away by saying, that's cool, fantastic, send us the bill, you kind of get a bit freaked out. Do they hate it? Did they get the email, etc.? And then with the fine art, it's different because now it's your own stuff, and it's fine if no one sees it. But as soon as you put it up somewhere, man, you are completely laid bare.
Oh, completely. But we'll get to that because it's a lovely story on its own. But I think fine art generally, what it means to me is it's putting up an artwork that you're trying to convey either an emotion or a message, or even just questioning, making your audience question the artwork. If it's evoking something like that, for me, it's fine art photography.
Right.
So it's not just a normal photograph of a mountain. It's taken either artistically or use creative techniques to just take it one step further to convey a message or bring forward a question. And I think that's what makes it so special, is it's more than just a photograph. You get something out of it. You feel something, you question. It's an experience. That's the best way to sum it up.
What makes it even more complicated is that it allows room for everyone who's watching it or looking at it to have a completely different viewpoint of it. It's almost, I don't want to say ambiguous, but maybe that is the word. It could be this or it could be this. And that's quite exciting.
And exactly, because what I interpret something as could be completely different to the next person because of how they live. They could live on the opposite end of the world to me. So their life is very different to mine.
Right.
So in turn, we interpret things different. And I think that's beautiful. I can look at an image, see something, feel something, and then another person could look at that image, same thing, but we can be on two opposite planes. So I think it's beautiful, a beautiful art form.
Absolutely. And I have to say, the more I'm sort of getting in touch with these sorts of things, the more I'm thinking, you know what, maybe I need to play a little bit there, because it's, again, with being a commercial photographer, every time you pick up your camera, it's a work thing. And you almost sort of, let's say it's the weekend or you got an afternoon off or whatever, and you go, because you're going to need to process the thing.
Yeah, it's so true. That is so true.
So I definitely need to start playing a little bit, and because it's also a mind shift. It's kind of going out there and not necessarily going out and just walking around and taking pictures. There's planning involved, and what do I do, and if there are other people involved, you've got to work as a team and get the project sorted.
Oh, 100%. And also another thing with being creative, if you're stuck in if you're analytical, you're working a day-to-day life where you're not creative, to shift your mind from that to creative, you can't do that in a switch. You can't go working all day, now I'm going to go be creative. It never works. So it's so important to just take that time to actually engage into that creativity. And it's very hard to separate the two. So I understand.
Cool. No, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the images and hearing your stories behind them. I think it's going to be very, very cool. And I think the guys that watch it will feel exactly the same way. And hopefully they'll go and order your prints and
that would be amazing.
Guys, go and order the prints. The link will be in the description below. And I suppose this is the other thing which I never do. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've been here before, fantastic. If you're a subscriber, even better. If you're not, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. You'll be notified as soon as we add new videos, etc. The whole thing about the Hunters of Light is education, motivation, and inspiration. So if you like it, subscribe, tell someone about it. We can just go from strength to strength and do more of these kinds of creative showcases. So yeah, thanks very much, guys.
So what I did is I more or less sorted it out in order of date they were taken. So it's from the beginning of my fine art journey to where we are now, basically.
Very cool.
So I'm going to start you off with my very first fine art collection and my very first collection to actually be exhibited. So that's this Daydreams Collection. I picked two pictures to show you. So I'm just going to go to both of them first. And now this collection was shot using a pinhole lens, so pinhole photography.
Yeah.
It's a technique we learned on my dad's fine art course. So when I just started doing fine art, I studied under my father, and this was one of the techniques. And what I loved about this is the fact that we built our own lens out of a tin can and a needle.
Wow.
And then we went off to the beach to take photos, and this is what we got.
That's incredible.
And what I love about this is it just shows you it's not always the most expensive lens or the most expensive camera. Sometimes it's just the artist and the artist eye. You can see this lens literally cost me $20.
Yeah.
And it creates these beautiful pin images. And basically when I showed my father this one, he said to me, shoot 12 more like that and we'll have your first exhibition. So it took me a few months to collect my collection. And then once it was complete, I had my first collection in the gallery. So this is a very special collection for me and one of my first fine art collections as a whole.
I think it's very, very cool. It kind of reminds me of an idea that I've been, I suppose it's on the back burner, where, because my wife doesn't know what it's like for someone who wears glasses. So if I take my glasses off, what is it that I see? Yes. You know, and that first one reminds me of that kind of thing. You know, it's almost like a daydream and you know, is it on the beach? Is it in the desert? Is it sort of in like the veldt? Is it hot? It's just I love it. And again, depending on how many people see it, you'll have that many explanations as to what it is.
And I love hearing what people think and what they think they see. I find it so interesting because you get the weirdest responses.
Very cool.
Yeah. Okay, so that's my pinhole. Next we have, this is a collection called Panache. It was also shot for exhibition. Basically, this is using camera movements. So I'm not sure how familiar you are with the technique. It's basically slowing your shutter down to about a second, maybe even 2 seconds, and then panning up using camera movement. And that gives you these long impressionistic lines. And I absolutely love the abstract feeling you get with it, where you almost don't know what it is, but you get the feeling for it. And it just brings a sense of calm and tranquility. I think that's why I really like this piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I must say I do enjoy that sort of the technique. Where, and I've seen it a few times before, and I've in sometimes it looks almost more recognizable, and other times it looks a lot more, where there's a lot more motion in it. And I've always wondered if how do they get it? Because I mean, I understand the 1 second movement, etc. But the ones where it seems clearer, I don't understand how they do that. Because how can it be so much movement in one area and in another it just seems so much more accurate?
So it's got to do with the combination of the speed at which you move your camera, as well as the speed of your shutter speed. So what I find when I'm taking this kind of images is I really need to experiment a bit. I need to change my settings, I need to change my speed until I get a combination that I'm liking. Right. So when it comes to almost, I think, any creative technique, you're going to experiment a lot before you find something you're liking. Let me tell you, especially, at least we spoiled with digital. So we have the option to look and delete, where back in the day you couldn't do that. But honestly, it comes down to just experimenting and trying. Because the faster you go, you'll get a bit more solid lines, where the slower you go, it's going to be a bit more softer, a bit more illusion. Yeah.
And I suppose that you mentioned earlier that your first collection, took you a couple of months to get, the files together. Correct. And I suppose that's the thing, you may decide, right, today I'm pumped, I'm creative, I'm a superstar, and you go there, but it's just not working. You shoot however many you shoot and it just doesn't work. Yeah,
and that's photography for you. That's, I think, almost what makes it so special is that you don't always walk away with a winner. Right. But when you do, oh boy, do you feel like a winner, you know what I mean? So it's Fantastic. Almost, you just become addicted to just trying to get that moment. And I think that's what makes it so special. Yeah,
I think so.
Okay, so next this is more of a landscape collection than fine art. But the reason I included it is because I went out to shoot this collection with a purpose. So I wanted the entire collection to be big dramatic skies and then very minimal, simple foregrounds.
Right.
And because I shot it with that intention and I'm bringing across some sort of emotion, I like to categorize it as a fine art landscape photo. So this is a collection called Eternity. This is the first one in the Eternity series. This is the second one. So you'll see they follow almost the same theme.
Right.
And shot all over southern South Africa. I've also shot them so that the horizon line lies in the same place so that you can hang multiple next to each other. So the horizon line just beautifully harmonizes together.
Oh, that's very cool. That's a great tip, that.
Yeah, very interesting, because as soon as you hang images with different horizon lines, there's a clash, especially if they're next to each other. So by making it the same, when you group them, it just sings. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I suppose you only worked that out the first time, and then it's printed, it's on the wall, and you go, I missed a trick there. Exactly. I should have lined those up.
Exactly.
So here's a question.
Exactly. Yes.
You mentioned earlier, these are more landscapes than fine art. I suppose in my understanding, and as I said, it's a pretty limited understanding of the art of photography. Yeah. But in my understanding, I would say anything that's got a slow shutter speed from a fine art, from a landscape point of view, I would term as a fine art image. Is that strictly speaking correct, or not so much?
So I think it completely depends on the actual image, because I know how you struggle, because I struggle too. Fine art is such a huge concept, and there's so many different parts to it. But I don't think every slow shutter image, landscape image, can be said to be fine art. I think it more just determines on what the image is conveying. If it's conveying a message or a feeling or a sensation, then yes, maybe. But if it's just a picture of Table Mountain with soft clouds, then maybe not. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think it really depends, yeah.
And I suppose it also, based on what you said now, there needs to be a collection of them, and the title and the artist's statement would need to, describe what the intention was for that.
Correct. And the thing with fine art photography, the other huge part of it is you usually create it to exhibit. It's usually something you want to put on the walls to show people so that they can see it. You know what I mean? It's not really something you're going to create a whole collection just to put it on your wall. Does that make sense? It's
right,
something you intend to exhibit. So that's also a nice determining factor.
Okay. And with that in mind, who's the typical collector of fine art? Obviously, you've got interior designers who would be sourcing it for their clients, etc. But because, as you mentioned, fine art ideally should be a couple of them together. That's the intention of them. So I mean, do you find that people buy just one, or would they buy two or three?
So it really depends. Especially with this series, because it's on both sides. I get a lot of people, or clients, should I say, who would just purchase one. But then that being said, I've seen two or three also. So I think it really depends on the client itself and on the space they have. If you don't have the space for large art, you can't do it. It's especially photographic art, it demands space.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it really depends on the person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so any more questions about Eternity? No,
I think that's it for now. I really enjoy these, where the water is this beautiful milky,
yes, me too.
area. I really enjoy them. I could literally spend hours walking around a gallery just looking at these and wondering, well, where can I take that? Where can I go and shoot that?
I agree. It's the way it calms the whole composition down, and it also just, for me, I get a feeling of tranquility and just calmness, which is something we don't get in the normal day-to-day life. Life is so busy, so visually saturated, so when we see something that's calm and relaxing, I think we are so drawn to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is a portrait of Mandela. This was a piece, basically, I don't know if you're familiar with my father's Mandela piece, Salt of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Earth.
Yeah.
So that is a very popular piece. He auctions it off it was every year until recently because of COVID. But we auction it off at Purple Ball. It's a ball for, I think it's disabled children, and then all the funds go to them.
Okay.
It's Hospice House, that's correct. I just remembered Hospice House, and the function's called the Purple Ball. And 2 years ago, I was approached to create something for them to auction off as well. And in tribute to my father and into Mr. Mandela, I decided to do my own little artwork of the man. So this here is basically, there's a few elements to it. I'm going to tell you how I created it and then why I created it how I did. Basically, it's a black powder transfer that was digitally put back together in a montage form. And then very subtly, I created the montage to have each block almost represent a different color, a different shade. And what I wanted to do that was basically to show you how Mandela is made up of all these different shades, and every shade represents the people of South Africa. So altogether, as a whole, when you look at him, he represents the Rainbow Nation. And then I put down a soft overlay of a quote from his biography, his Walk to Freedom biography. And basically, it's a quote talking about how no one is born hating another person. You have to be taught to hate. And if you can be taught to hate, you can be taught to love, because love comes quicker to the heart than hate. And I think that is an absolutely beautiful saying that basically just finished off this artwork for me. So I overlaid that. And yeah, this is just an artwork for me representing South Africa and what Mandela wanted for South Africa. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I like the the symbolism of the different shades,
Yes.
to make up the different shades that we have in our country. I think it's very cool.
Yes. Thank you so much. So it's a very special piece. And it's something, all of the things I'm showing you now, I wish I could show you in person, because there's something about fine art or just photography where you can't appreciate it on a monitor or on a screen. You only truly appreciate it in person. So I wish you could see this in print, because it's much, much more impressive.
Well, that's the thing, you depending on the bandwidth that you have, the connectivity speed, you're either going to be seeing it as a low res file, but even if it's if you're looking at it at using a 4K file, it's as you say, it's still not the same. You almost need to have that physical size to really appreciate it. That's very, very true.
Yeah, it's one of the comments we get quite a lot from people who visit the gallery. They're always blown away and say, this is nothing what I thought it was like.
Yeah.
So that's why I encourage everyone to always go look at an art museum or any art expos, go look at it in person, because you're just not going to get the experience over the phone or over the computer.
Exactly. And I think I can't remember who it was, but someone once said to me that, if they see it, they'll buy it. So,
Yes.
and the context was, do you offer, large format prints? And if it is on your wall, so it's a picture, you've done a family shoot or whatever it is, and there's this beautiful A2 or larger print on your wall. If people see it, immediately they think, oh, my family would be great that size on the wall.
Yeah.
So if they can see it, they'll buy it, and that's pretty much exactly what you were saying now. You get the feeling, you get the goosebumps, and you say, right, take my money.
Yes, exactly. Because then you can really soak it in. It's completely different feel. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. So these three, I'm going to quickly flash through them fast. They were all taken on the same day. But the funny thing about this story is these three images were taken was when I just started learning photography. I think this was on a landscape course that I did with my father. And we were walking around shooting, and I was, I think, getting a little bit bored. I don't know. I was still very young and still getting used to the photography thing. And my dad said to me, Sam, just try some creative stuff. Just move your camera around. Just try something creative. I was like, oh, fine. I'll do a few for like my dad. It's fine. And I did a few, and I, at the time, didn't like any of them. Went and carried on doing some normal photography.
Right.
And only 3-4 years, I went back into this raw folder and I found these, and it blew my mind. I was like, why did I not see them before? And I think that's another thing with fine art photography is you almost got to train your eye into seeing what works and what doesn't work. So because I wasn't used to finding fine art things back then, I kind of just saw it as a mistake or nothing interesting. But returning to it with new eyes that are now accustomed to all the art, I looked at this and immediately I knew what I was going to do with them. So I just think that's a cool story on how you can change from going from plain normal photography into fine art. It's not something that just happens. It's honestly something that grows on you. And that's what I learned with these 3 photos. So this is Ocean Pattern. This one doesn't have a name. It's just an open edition. And this is also an ocean pattern, but in panoramic form.
Oh, very nice. I think it's it's interesting that you say that you need to train your mind or your eye into being able to see it. A lot of photographers that when they first start out, they can't see the light. And all of a sudden one day it's like, oh, okay, I get it. It's like when you look at a forest in winter, the shadows are blue. And in summer, the shadows are warmer. And, unless you understand, you don't see that. So same thing, you know what to look for. Exactly. Yeah. So that's very interesting. I love that. It's really nice.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's strange because also it grows with, as you progress in your little story. For instance, my dad, when we were just starting, he would get out the car and run and go shoot something. And I literally could not find what he was shooting. And then he'd come back and show me. I'm like, I didn't see that.
Right.
So yeah, it's funny. I love it.
No, that's very cool. I love that.
All right. Let me show you this one. So this is Autumn Impression. It's basically 3 exposures, 1 sharp, 1 blurry, and then I think there might actually be 2 blurry on this one now that I'm looking at it. And basically this was just taken in camera. So in camera, multiple exposure, which is lovely. Also a technique that takes a lot of trying, a lot of practicing before you get a result. But this print is actually currently hanging in the Zeiss Marker as part of their Art Home is Where the Art Is, or Art is Where the Home Is exhibition. So it's nothing I ever thought I'd be able to say that I had a piece up in the Zeiss. So that's super exciting. And if there's anyone in Cape Town who hasn't seen it yet, go have a look. They have over 2,000 artworks from Cape Townians on the walls, and it is just unbelievable. So yeah.
I can't wait to get down to Cape Town and see that place. I've seen pictures of the interior.
The interior itself is just
it's outstanding, obviously the work inside is just as good. But it's definitely on my list of things to do. I just need to when I do get a chance to go down there. That's not like a work thing where you fly in early morning, shoot, and then fly out. You need a bit of time to experience it properly.
And take your time. Yeah. So this is very similar to how Ocean Pattern was taken. This I used an ND filter to just slow down my shutter slightly, and using a panning motion, I was able to capture this. This is Dalebrook in Hout Bay with Musenberg in the background over there.
Yeah, it's quite a nice technique that I've played with it a few times, where you sort of standing there and you just sort of do that horizontal panning movement. You never know what you're going to get, but I enjoy that, I must say.
All the fun. Yeah, exactly. And then when you get something amazing, it's just like breath of fresh air. I love it. Okay, so this is a new collection called Pastures of Splendor, and it's also in camera multiple exposure. I think this is 3 layers, one on top of the other. And I'm sure for those who can't really see, it's reeds, multiple exposure, and then one of them are inverted layers. So I know I said 3 in camera, but I just remembered it's 2 in camera, 1 added in post. And the one that I added in post, I inverted. So that's why you're getting the darker blues in the background.
Right, it's very interesting. When I first saw it,
Yes.
I thought it was like a combination of black and white and
Yes.
the color. But now that you mention it, the inverting would make that
Yes.
more blue.
Yes. Exactly. And it was also something that was just a mistake, and then I ended up loving it. So yeah, experiment.
That's how it works.
all I can say. Exactly. And this is something very similar. Also, this is in camera though. This wasn't done out of camera. So this is 3 exposures in camera. The difference here is I combined sharp, blurry, and then 1 camera movement. And that's what's giving you that effect in the background. Okay. And this is a technique I just started really enjoying. It's also a technique that practice. You're not going to get a shot every time, but when you do get a shot, it is worth it. I've got 2 other collections that are very similar to this that I'm going to show you now, but that's very similar to this. You can see how it's almost building one on top of the other. I'm almost learning along the way.
Well, absolutely, and that I think is, firstly training your eye to see shots so that you can think of making them, but then as you go, you're building new techniques and experimenting and finding techniques that maybe you haven't seen before, and that I suppose that's part of the whole process, the artisanal 100%. Quality to it.
Yes, and also every technique. Some techniques work for some people, some not for others. So sure. It's finding the techniques that you like and that the results that you like. So it's merely just playing around really until you start finding your niche. And it takes time. Honestly, it really, really does. I can only confidently say that in the last year, I've fallen in love with this kind of techniques and stuff. I was always a bit shy of trying it because I never really liked complex or over complicated scenes. I preferred minimal still. But that's why I combined it with camera movement, because I feel like the camera movement almost just quietens it down a bit so it's not so busy.
Absolutely. I think that's it's definitely the case. If that bit of movement, as you say, just calms it down a little bit. Yeah, where something might have a lot of detail in it, that movement will just, not blur it, but just provide a little bit of like
soften it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so then this is very similar. This is a new collection. This is one of them that I launched last week at the Osner Gallery with my dad. This is a collection called Concrete Facade, and it's basically a combination of camera movement, one going horizontally, one going vertically, and then they both combined. And this is all about conveying that feeling of inner city. It feels really busy, but it also feels peaceful and tranquil. So it's that contrasting effect you get from living in the city.
It's like an impressionist painting with just the brushstrokes there to to indicate the forms. So are these combined in post production, or is it exposure in? Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was wondering if this was in camera horizontal and then vertical. And wow, I would imagine that would be like impossibly hard.
Oh no. It's definitely, I've tried a few like that, and some of them do work, but like I say, not all of them. So This one is done post.
Love it. I really enjoy that.
And this is the 3rd one in the collection. Also, they both were taken in Sea Point. This one obviously at sunset.
It almost feels like a reflection in a bit of water.
It does. Okay, so we're nearing the end. This is these 2 are another collection that I released at this exhibition. This is called Enchanted, and this is the same technique of multiple exposure and camera movement. So Enchanted, this is Enchanted number 2, this is Enchanted number 1. Enchanted number 1, I think I shot about 8 layers on top of each other in camera. This is the most I've ever shot in camera. And I think the same reason as before is combining it with camera movement is what almost just softened it down a bit and just calmed it down. So it wasn't too much for me, because visually I like things simple. So these are a little bit different for me, but I like how they make me feel.
So was this one done in camera as well?
So this one was done post, where this one was done in camera. So this was more of a multiple exposure with the soft and the sharp, where this was just shot after shot, one on
Right.
top of the other in camera.
So from a post-production point of view, for the first one, do you obviously bring those into Photoshop, and then, because the exposure has to add up to 100%, do you then make those 30% or 33% each and overlay them?
So I literally just start overlaying, and if it's working, I keep it there. If it's not working, I take it out. So it's kind of a backwards and forwards thing until it's getting to where I like it, if that makes any sense at all. Yeah, I'd rather add to it slowly than, because sometimes you add and you can see it's not working, and then you carry on. You know what I mean? But if I see it's not working or it's not going the direction, I'd rather take that layer out and try something new.
Because there's a technique that Andre Clements introduced me to, where he would take 50 exposures of a bridge from different angles, and then overlay all of those, and it's just amazing the results. And I know I want to do it, but I need to go and actually physically do it. But the technique itself just looks amazing. The results are fantastic.
Oh, I've seen those shots, and they are amazing. They are beautiful. Definitely something to play around with. I can't imagine actually even stitching that many photos together.
Absolutely,
yeah. Oh no, that's amazing. Okay, so let's move on to my last collection. Now, when I mentioned before that I was trying something completely different, this is the collection. It's something the concept I've been working on for, I want to say about a year. And it's taken me a lot of time because I've got so many different elements that I wanted to bring together. And only recently, last year, December, did my idea kind of come together. And I'll explain why now. But basically, let me tell you why or what this is about. This is a collection I call Masquerade. And now you can't see it in this image, but I'm going to show you a video now. This is actually a 3D image. The hands are resting on top of the paper is resting on top of the face. But this is not something you can see, obviously, in the digital one. I will show you the video. But what it goes about is basically our inner beauty and the way people feel like we almost need to put a facade up in public. We don't carry our scars and our worst parts of us for everyone to see. I don't know how to explain, but we'd rather hide behind a facade and put something up and hide behind that. And I like to think of it as your inner beauty is actually your true beauty. So that's why I made the background, even though it's cracked and crinkled, the background has got beautiful flowers and beautiful gold embellishments. And even though the facade itself is beautiful, you can see that there's this inner beauty, outer beauty war going on. So it's a very deep piece, I know, very different from anything I've ever done. But I'm going to show you the video now, then you can see exactly how I created it.
Cool. I love the message that you're portraying with it.
Thank you. So I'm going to show you the second one first before I show you the video. And the second one's kind of going to tie in why I finished off this series. So this is actually my baby sister. And last year, December, it was about the 10th of December, we got told that she was diagnosed with lymphoma. And that kind of made me just want to finish this collection off, because the message I was trying to bring across is exactly what I was seeing in my sister, where she sits at home and she's going through all these troubles and she's covered in these scars. But when she goes out in public, she puts her wig on, she puts her makeup on, and no one knows. No one knows what she's going through, where we see the other side of her. So I think that even though this is a very personal message, I feel like it is also a universal message, because everyone goes through something similar. Recently, this piece was sold to a lady who doesn't know my sister at all. And when she saw the piece, she was just overcome with tears. And she said that the piece was just so meaningful to her and what she's going through. And she was going through something completely different. And I never really thought anything like that would come from this piece. I was more making this piece as a tribute to my sister, as just a way to express myself. And I didn't think that could touch another person's heart and make them feel those things. So that's when the whole fine art concept really rang true to me, where everyone can get something out of an image, even if it's a different message. And yeah, it's just made me super excited to do more for this collection.
That's very cool. I mean, that's, you just, you hit the nail on the head there. We've spoken about the fact that, everyone takes something out of it. And I don't think anyone is going to look at a beautiful A2 print of a nail polish and go, oh man, it speaks to me.
Exactly.
Whereas this type of thing, you may have something that's completely different. You may have this may say to you that it's your half sister, or someone that you've lost, or that, it can be something completely different. And I think that really, is helping to solidify it for me, in as much as what is this fine art thing, how do I categorize it? So, wow, I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. So this is the very personal piece that I was very scared to put out there, but I'm glad I did. And proud of my sister for letting me do it as well, because it must have been very scary for her. What I want to do just to finish off is just show you the video of how that was created, just so that you can see the layers, because I don't think you can truly appreciate it unless.
It's quite a big final size. Hey, what size was that?
Huge. It was so much bigger than I expected. So I even had a bit of a fright. I think it is 90 by 120, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. It's. I mean, to see something like that, in real life, in situ, that's really where the goosebumps start happening.
That's the thing. That's where seeing it in person, that's another factor. It's just,
Absolutely. No, I have to say I can't wait to see what the rest of that collection will look like, and where it'll develop, because it's a really interesting message. Everyone hides behind some form of mask, etc. You never really know what's going on behind the facade. So I think it'll speak to a lot of people, and it'll do really well. So good luck with that.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm excited. I can't wait to add more to it.
Very cool.
I think it's something special. Yeah.
All right. Well, it certainly helped me. I'm slowly but surely I'm narrowing down this definition of where, what, who, and how. So thank you for helping me in this journey. We'll wrap this up. Put a bow on it. Pop it up on the Hunters of Light YouTube channel, and let everyone else share it as well. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for approaching me.
It's an absolute pleasure. All right. Thanks, Sam. Have a good afternoon. Hey.
Thank you. Thank you. You too, Quintin. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.